As a lot of you know, mascot horror is a genre I have pretty strong feelings towards. While there are plenty that are blatant grifts or cash grabs, there are a few that genuinely put a lot of heart into their development and really create some fun or visually distinct projects. One game that definitely has tipped the scales both positively and negatively has been Poppy Playtime.
Developed by Mob Games, this game has steeped itself into some controversies here and there. Been called a ripoff, and just straight up the equivalent of one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. However, over the years, that stigma has begun to slip away quite a bit, and what we now have is one of the most exciting titles in the space that has caused a bit of a renewed vigor within the fans of the genre. Poppy has went from being the joke to receiving a standing ovation, and I want to go through how we ended up here, because it is a bumpy road to say the least. Before we jump into this, I ain't going to be covering every aspect of this game or the company as a whole. I want to mainly focus on the actual product itself rather than Mob as a company, because that honestly to me is just a much more interesting topic. There will be some bits here and there, but nothing really too deep. Also, my hair may look a little bit different, but that's just because I had to record the green screen parts one day and then the back wall parts a different day. Sound good? All right, let's take a look at where it all started.
A lot of people tend to view the origins of Playtime Co.'s story as more of a tech demo rather than a full-blown chapter. To some degree, I can understand this. It's very much an hors d'oeuvre that only gives us a sprinkling of the world that we are beginning to see unfold. Similar to Bendy's original incarnation, this game gives us an inciting reason to have the desire to return to the factory. We are told there are missing employees, and through VHS tapes left across the factory, we begin to very slowly get an understanding of the ins and outs of this strange factory abandoned to time. The toy theming is pretty nice, with each and every room feeling like a giant playset. The machines are bright and colorful, offering this sort of whimsy to the whole situation to really lull you into a sense of eeriness but comfort.
And Huggy's design, while clearly meant to be as marketable as possible, which if you've ever been to a mall, you've seen the shitty knockoff products, so it worked I guess, is a good starting antagonistic force.
Is it extremely creative how they build him up? Not really.
But he's not meant to be the main course of our horror experience. He's just kind of a simple enemy that's just meant to do one thing and one thing only. Hunt you down and just, kill you. I mean, literally, he is Playtime's security defense. It's mentioned in the first tape we actually find when entering the factory. Notably too, the puzzles are at their simplest for the most part, except that one in the vents with the energy relay thing. That took me a few more tries than I would like to honestly admit. But again, I think this is very intentional on Mob Games' part, specifically because we are at the surface level of the factory, and with the logic as well that our character used to work here. With that logic in mind, it makes total sense as to why our character is able to just sort of breeze through the light, spooky atmosphere and very simplified, non-complicated puzzles. Where this chapter excels, of course, though, is its finale.
This has been talked on about to death 1,000 times over, so I'll keep it simple. Big blue fur monster with sharp teeth chases you into the vents, super cramped so that claustrophobic feeling sets in as the monster contorts to fit inside and chase you down. Music swells nicely here, with a chase soundtrack that is supremely well designed. You duck into a hole, wait for the door to open, which is probably the weakest part since you can't control this, it's just scripted. You run against the belt, pushing you downwards towards your doom. Nice little extra sauce, honestly, that intensifies the chase. Escape into a new section, have to quickly turn around before he comes barreling out to stuff you in his hole. Pull down a box with both hands and watch him fall like Darth Maul on the Boo.
Definitely the high point of the chapter. I'd also like to say I think that the gimmick of the grab pack, while not super fleshed out, works as a fun and simple puzzle mechanic for this basic chapter that we are playing through. Allows for some uniqueness in terms of bringing power back to the factory and starting the whole adventure that we find ourselves going through. The one big gripe I personally have with this chapter has to be it's very much leaning into a very primary color sort of color scheme. It's very boring and really just screams, let's market to kids as hard as possible instead of creating something interesting looking that might appeal to a wider demographic. But hey, like many mascot horrors before, it ended up doing pretty well and getting a continuation, so let's go check that out, shall we? I hate this chapter. I know, that's not very constructive to start off with, but just, man, this shit sucks for me. I did not have a good time playing this chapter at fucking all, and I have just been waiting to rip it apart. Despite the fact I absolutely despise it, there's actually some good here, and I think it's very important that we call out its strengths rather than just, take a quick shit on it, even though it deserves it.
For one thing, Mommy's design? Nice. The stretchiness and bending is a cool concept for a secondary foe for us to encounter. The inclusion of a second hand that lets you grab electricity offers some new variations in puzzles. Mommy's personality shift when she's gotten tired of your shit is fun and I think works. Sort of. And the ending where she dies and we see the prototype for the first time is great, albeit funny more than anything. And that's where my praises stop.
Oh my god, okay, where do I even begin here? So, here's my thing when it comes to horror antagonists. I think some of the best ones are ones that have limited or no speech at all when it comes to interacting with the main character or characters. I think it deepens the impact, creates more tension and menace and just real fear. There are, of course, some good examples that do yap on and talk your ear off, but I prefer the balancing act of knowing when to speak and to know when to shut the fuck up. Can you see where I'm going here? Mommy talks so damn often and lessens her impact so fucking quickly that honestly her name should just be Chatty Cathy at this point. No disrespect to Elsie Lovelock, she is a phenomenal voice actress who just feels like she's being wasted with such a shitty scriptwriter. I mean, some of her lines are just...
It's okay though. Mommy knows other ways to play with you.
Ugh. I'm also just not a fan of how little they did to kind of show the factory being a little more decrepit and broken down since we're supposedly further down into the bowels of the factory. I mean, it still just feels really, really clean and somewhat like the original base chapter. Sure, there's new locations and we have some webbing. Does that actually come out? But it isn't super interesting with its overall lighting and color choices. It just feels like it's trying so desperately to cling on to looking as child-friendly and appealing, just a wee bit too hard, and it just kind of sucks me out of the whole experience. I mean, the game station, from a lore perspective, I think works, but it just does not feel lived in. It feels like it only just shut down yesterday, you know what I mean?
But on top of the more spooky, less scary sort of set pieces, it's also just not really fun to play. Instead of just a few small puzzles to solve, we've got 3 mini-games to complete. Bunzo's press and repeat game is fine. Not really something I found to be all too fun, but inoffensive at best. The red light, green light PJ Pugapillar is the strongest, as I think his overall constant tapping really sets the atmosphere well, in addition to the lights clicking on and off, creating this eerie sense of dread as you are forced to remain still as he is still advancing.
Unfortunately, it's got a pretty lacking sort of jump scare, and he's kind of goofy, so it doesn't really faze me after the first time, more causing frustration than genuine terror, which I think is a bigger problem with the genre, but that's just a whole different conversation. But by far, the thing that I hate most about this chapter, nay, the whole franchise, is the goddamn Huggy Bonk section.
My first time doing this, I spent so long getting more and more frustrated since you can barely see the damn things, so I can't aim for where to smack those little sons of bitches that I ended up blasting the brightness so high, and it still barely made a difference. Sure, there are the sound cues, but it isn't helpful when 15 of them are gooning in my fucking ears. This is the most annoying shit in the world, and I hope to Christ whoever designs this knows, because this is not fun!
It is repetitive, aggravating, and more infuriating than anything I have ever done in video gaming. I would rather chug Diablo sauce and laxatives than ever deal with this again. So anyways, most of my other gripes with this chapter are sort of minimal at best.
Not a fan of the chase aspect with Mommy when you go through the tubes and you got hands coming everywhere. It's pretty looking, but like, not scary. Her coming up from the depths of hell is alright, but to hide in the oven is just... I don't know, why are we playing hide and seek? I get the theming, it's all a game, but like, come on. At least the part where you pull yourself up is kinda cool. And then, right when she's about to get you before getting caught in the suck machine, it being this open corridor that's just so brightly lit feels so boring to go through. And the ending with Poppy after you rescue her.
By the way, Poppy's here. Haven't really mentioned it until now, but she's the doll from the title of the game. You know, Poppy, Playtime, you get it.
Betrays you in such a boring way since, oh, you're too perfect to leave, and then we crash the train. The end.
There is an alternate version of this that exists within the game's files, and I think it just honestly works better overall, and I just have no idea why they swap it around with the one that we ended up getting. And you know, that's saying something because recently I re-listened to it, and it just honestly gives a greater sense of twisting our mission into something new from what we originally started in Chapter 1, and makes Poppy feel much more sympathetic rather than what we ended up actually getting, where she more feels like, ha ha, I'm the master manipulator, fuck you, I got you, ha 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 ha. I don't know, this chapter just, I just didn't gel with it. It wasn't a very fun experience for me. I don't know. You know what could be a really good experience though for you and for me? If you just want to help me out real quick? If you could just subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, baby, let's fucking go. If we hit 4,000 subscribers by the end of this year, I'm gonna make a Garten of Banban video. I say, I hate those fucking games, but I'll fucking do it. Subscribe for my suffering. Woo-hoo-hoo!
This was it for me. If this chapter was bad, I was not going to invest my time into games of this genre anymore. I was burned out on mascot horror number 4572. But against my better judgments, I decided to give the benefit of the doubt to Mob sheerly because I liked chapter 1 that much. So when chapter 3 dropped, I was first in line to stream the game and it was good. Not just good, but great. I'd go as far to say one of the best mascot horror entries of 2024. This chapter not only fixed what went wrong with the previous chapters for me, but on top of that, made me hyped for what came next.
Holy shit, Mob, you did it. I'm reinvested in your story. You won me back. Oh my god, I don't even know where to begin, honestly, with the compliments on this chapter. I mean, first things first, wow, the game looks fucking gorgeous. You can honestly feel the shift from Unreal Engine 4 to 5. It is mountains better than what we got with all the lighting and smoke effects that we end up getting here. The color grading, the textures, I'm just cooming all over the place from how much fucking whiplash this is in the best way possible.
While there is still some of that primary color scheme featured in the chapter, it's all desaturated and textured with these cracks and rundownness, and there are way more of these other splashes of color blasted in as well, adding some much needed vibrancy. Even with all that though, it still feels dank and dreary, abandoned almost, and overgrown.
Like an actual horror game. Holy shit. Of course, you can't have a really good horror game unless you've got some bad guys to challenge you, and oh boy, do they challenge you, alright?
We get 3 this time, and they do not disappoint. The first 2 come in the form of mini-bosses. Miss Delight is a crazed teacher who wants to bash your brains in. Caveat though, she ain't moving unless you ain't peeking at her. This whole Weeping Angel approach is super fun and creates this slow, methodical chase in which you have to plan your routes somewhat irregularly to gain ground on her while grabbing batteries to escape the schoolhouse. Gorgeously designed to be this reprehensible creature that is unsightly to look at. Her little breaths as she clunks towards you add the right amount of intimidation. She doesn't speak, except in her little cardboard cutouts.
Which is also something I haven't mentioned until now, but just quick blanket statement, honestly, they are great. In every chapter, it's really hard to mess those up, honestly.
It works here though, because we get all the backstory from that and her area's VHS tape. It's show don't tell, but you are told, but not in some boring ass way, so I can't really think of a good metaphor. Shut up.
I think overall, she's my favorite to go against, but if we're talking like favorite, like favorite characters, both in this chapter and in this franchise. It's gotta be my main man, Dog Day Man. I mean, who else can you pick?
Tragic backstory, the last of his kind, being basically possessed by small little creatures who view our main villain's chapter as a sort of god, and then chasing you down, trying to kill you. I think his chase scene can be a bit frustrating when you got those little smiling critters able to kill you as well, and it is very linear, but really it is terrifying considering half his body is missing as he's being piloted by those little freakazoids who are just dragging his dead corpse across the ground. It all works so well, honestly, that I can forgive its minor shortcomings.
Speaking of the smiling critters, we're given a couple of extra hands this time around to allow for various different gameplay styles. They're pretty simple, but very fun, honestly, to mess around with. One allows you to propel yourself high into the air, and one fires flares that recharge over time, not only providing light in less than luminous areas, but combating the little critters crawling across the soft and squishy floor. Again, super simple, but they changed the gameplay loop and diversify it from just walk forward and smack something with a basic-ass hand simulator we've had previously. The electric hand is of course back as well, doing its thing, transferring power and stuff. These three in Tangency gel really well together and create some rather challenging puzzles for you to solve that aren't too simple but don't feel like, solving the Da Vinci Code, and provide a nice lull from the more brisk and tense moments that the game has to offer. Even during the mini boss events, the hands feel extremely well utilized, and it all comes together at the very end when we encounter our main big bad walking purple people eating feline.
While we see glimpses of him throughout our adventure in Playcare, he shines brightly at the end of the chapter, becoming a fucking boss fight from a Souls-like game. You not only have to keep Catnap at bay by shooting the false versions of him with flares, but when he does show up, you either have to swap out batteries to blast him with smoke, or use jump pads or drag open doors to hit an energy input and blast him that way. He can also appear above you, which makes you have to drag the door down. Additionally, while you do this, you have to put in batteries to charge up the center energy output device. So slowly, your defenses deplete, juggling batteries as Catnap continues his hunt for you, sleuthing in the shadows.
Altogether, it plays so well and ends with this bittersweet moment where, after nearly electrocuting him to death, he willingly dies to the prototype to make me part of him! When combined with the drip-fed backstory elements we get from the world being developed from audio logs and other sources, Catnap's story is rather depressing and makes him somewhat of a sympathetic villain that we can sort of understand his motivations, just trying to do right by someone he considered to be a friend. Writing honestly just has gotten so deep this chapter, it's not even funny.
From the reveal of Kissy Missy and Poppy working together, and that crappy twist kind of making more sense from the end of Chapter 2, to the introduction of a new helper in the form of disembodied voice Ollie, to the further widening of the world through the founder's backstory. Everything here just feels so much more refreshing and filled out. Hell, they were even able to somewhat recreate the magic of Huggy's original chase with this fucking nightmarish creature.
It all honestly feels like the studio locked in and really meticulously crafted a horror experience that really leans into the terror of what this world can truly offer with its story, visuals, everything. Seriously, all the set pieces, all the lighting and cinematic work, the attention to small details, and really crafting some terrifying villains for us to face off against in some absolutely creative as shit ways. It's stellar, and I love it, honestly. Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 is up there for me when it comes to mascot horror, with stuff like Shipwreck 64, My Friendly Neighborhood, as this almost sort of renaissance of the genre, and I honestly am just so elated to see what Chapter 4 brings us.
If Chapter 3 is like a warm grilled cheese with tomato soup on a crisp winter evening after a long, hard day at work, Chapter 4 is like you turned up the heat a bit too high and slightly overcooked it.
Now, I don't feel like we have hit the lows of Chapter 2, but we definitely have had just a couple of steps back in terms of quality. For starters, let me ask you a question. Which of the nightmare critters do you think from this selection here resonates best with your personality? Go on, write their names in the description right now. We'll take a moment. Oh, what's that? You don't know their names because you weren't someone that meticulously followed all the ARGs and updates from mob games, and since you're just a filthy casual player who just plays the games, you have no fucking idea who they are? Damn, that really sucks. If only there was just some simple way that we could give lore and insight onto each of the characters so this could just, be avoided. Well, I guess we'll just have to think of something that we can do in future chat. I mean, seriously, why does Bubba Bubbafin and Kickin' Chicken get their fucking little cutouts put back into the game, but not, Maggie Mako or Simon Smoke or Poe? Seriously, it's just stupid that this is just only reserved for Yarnaby and Joey. I mean, it's great for them, but I want to know about the little shits that I had to fight at the beginning of the chapter in one of the first so-so sort of mini-games, honestly.
Speaking of Yarnaby, I think this one is the closest we get to okay, because he's just a dog, but it's done in the most boring way possible. Yeah, its mouth can split in half, sure, like I haven't seen that a billion times. But then it's followed up by a really boring, straight path kind of chase where you make like 1 or 2 turns, he grabs onto some metal, and then just burns alive somehow. Honestly, it's very unclear. I did not see it hit fire or anything. It was more adjacent, if anything.
There are some interesting parts before the chases where you gotta, sneak around the little bastard, but those are really it. Yarnaby is dispatched by his own glider, basically instead of the player doing anything to really cause his death, like every other fucking boss in the goddamn game almost. It's just so dumb because, he could have either, made the jump, or maybe he jumped up and maybe a bunch of flames came up, so we think he's dead, but then later in the chapter he comes back all broken down and, fucking burnt felt motherfucker. I don't know. It would have been more interesting at least than what we got with the doctor. Oh yeah, that's right. He's here too.
I think the Doctor's stage presence works way better as a disembodied voice rather than where we end up with him. Cause man does he have his intimidation slot fully maxed out. Honestly, I love how he feels and how every word you can feel that cold slime just dragging across your ears with every despicable sentence. There's so much malice, and we actually even get the backstory of good old Doc Harley Sawyer being first introduced into his mechanical prison. Really fleshes him out a lot better, honestly. And to be frank, his disabling of our hands in certain situations and forcing us to use our wits to solve problems is somewhat a fun concept, especially when we have to saw off a hand.
Not ours, which honestly would have been really cool for this chapter to do. It just sucks that he doesn't feel very fun to get to for most sections. I mean, don't get me wrong, that freezer section, really clever. Fun, honestly, I'd go as far to say. But having to navigate around a seemingly endless labyrinth of red gas to look for toys to get some code while also balancing oxygen, having to do a maze to get some kind of valve thing while having an acid trip, and the fucking Baba Chops section. Just don't make me feel anything except, when will this be over? Even the climax of this all, where you have giant robots chasing you around in super dark areas while you try to get batteries, feels super lackluster, which on paper it shouldn't, but in execution, there's barely any opportunities for stealth. It's just basically a game of hold shift and stay out of their grab range while hoping the pathing is just bad. That's not how you make a horror section with things chasing you. I have played plenty of these types of games to understand this logic. Shutting off his brain is a really cool moment in isolation, especially after the update when they make it look a bit prettier. But it just feels not fun with having everything else stacked on top of it. Honestly, most of this chapter is just that feeling of me scratching my head with just asking why this is all so bloated, and it just feels, I feel so claustrophobic with how much they're trying to do, man. It sucks.
Chapter 3 felt like it had progression that really led to a boss fight that tied everything together we used. Here, we're just reusing the same tricks we have used before. Just now we have a red hand that can open specific doors, and that's it. Even the whole story of the chapter just feels all over the place. Doctor, blowing up the factory. Kissy is just injured but fine. The Ollie reveal, the toys in hiding, the nightmare critters, Yarnaby, and the other experiments. The fact that there is a prison in a toy factory. It's all just too much. At least this is the chapter we get to fight Piano So. You know, if you were just gonna kill him off, why give him his own promo inside and outside the game?
I don't find this funny, Mob Games. I was really interested to see a character that had some sort of sound-based battle mechanic, especially voiced by the voice actor of Kane of all people, man. Like, holy shit, that's so fucking cool. But no, he gets eaten by the only other good part of this chapter. I really love Doughy, man. He's so well portrayed, and you can really feel the passion and expertise in Michael Kovac's performance. You know, like every other performance he just seamlessly slides into. His whole arc of wanting to protect his friends, his combativeness against Poppy's plans, the kindness he holds towards others, and how he bends over backwards to do good no matter what, even for a complete stranger like us. I mean, Jesus, he's like the Superman movie. His whole backstory of 3 kids being fused together into this giant gooey blob, it just works so well. There's more done in one scene with Doughy bouncing back and forth between different personalities before he inevitably crashes out and becomes this giant kaiju monster than there is in this entire chapter put together.
And even after you kill him, he still apologizes as if he was the problem. You did nothing wrong, bro. With all the tapes as well giving us further insight into the character, which by the way, the tape length was extremely long, but I don't mind honestly, and how he murdered his parents and then created a reminder of what he is doing this all for and just...
Man, I really hate that we did it to you, Doughy. I'm so sorry, man. Hashtag fuck Poppy and her dumbass fucking plan.
The only real complaint I have is that his weakness is kind of just shown once before the big fight, and honestly, isn't my favorite thing to do. Again, since all we got was just the stupid door opener hand as an upgrade, the Omni hand, we just have a new use for a hand we already got previously in the form of blowing stuff up with flares, and the jump pad hand again. Which creates this simple fight where we lure him under a saw, shoot a freeze canister, he become big kaiju snowman, and then we drop a saw blade on him. Rinse and repeat as he sometimes shoots thorns and can pop out of the ground. It is at least followed up by this really raw moment I alluded to where we have to basically slowly kill him with a giant ass drill and more freeze canisters. It's gut-wrenching when we consider who he was throughout the chapter. A friend, an ally, one of the GOATs, ripped to the Doughy community, man.
It frustrates me that this is the only great thing about this chapter. Yeah, there was an improvement to the graphical fidelity, but it lacked the same charm in terms of atmosphere present previously in chapter 3. Sure, we got Doughy, but there's also a shit ton of other new characters that basically feel like merch drops waiting to happen, which kind of works because my fiance wants a Poe plush. So thanks, Mob Games, at least you can make a marketable plushie at least. This is what makes me so frustrated. Playing through this wholeheartedly makes me believe at this point that chapter 3 was nothing but a fluke, which really makes me upset because it feels like they learned, it feels like they listened, they understood what people were looking for in this franchise that they are developing. And it just honestly feels like they just had way too many cooks enter the kitchen and started going ham developing unique things but failed to give them the time they needed to proof, rise, and bake properly.
The Smiling Critters had 8 characters in total. Add Alion as a newly introduced character, count Kissy and Poppy, Miss Delay, you have 12 characters for chapter 3. 10 of them are new ones we haven't even met till then.
And they all get enough development, some with just cardboard cutouts. To the degree that I have a Dog Day plush and I want to get a Crafty Corn one for my fiance. I love you, Marissa, but it just is you and you can't run from the truth. Even if it were just simple, basic sort of backstories, I really wouldn't care. Because, and I'm going off script here when I say this, it would honestly just give us enough insight to understand each of these characters, especially, like I mentioned at the very start, I'm a filthy casual. I'm not exploring every single video and ARG. I just don't have the time. I look forward to the fact that there are little cutouts and shit. I don't understand where this sort of mentality comes from, especially considering the fact that these chapters just subsequently just keep going up and up and up and up in price. I mean, with all the merch sales, with all the fucking money they've probably made from chapters, making chapter 1 free. I didn't mention this before, but like, that frustrates me to such a degree. I know that I only paid like $5 for chapter 1, but like, oh my god, it's just so frustrating to see just what feels like just very hardcore greed. It doesn't feel like it was worth the money that I paid for chapter 4. Chapter 3, 100%, totally agree. Even chapter 2, despite all of my grievances with it, it makes sense because it at least expands in a meaningful way. This chapter just feels like a wet slap in the face. I'm sorry, but fucking this chapter just makes me upset, and I don't think I talked about this in the script, so if I did, it's going in, but you know, fuck, man.
In chapter 4, we either get too much, barely, or nothing at all, or just the right amount in only Doughy's case. That's not good when the point really at the end of the day is to get people to not only play your game, but buy merch, draw fan art, make videos talking about your game. Who's drawing a fan art of Icky Licky? Who's buying a t-shirt with the doctor on it? When I watch content on this game, lots of people are saying this chapter isn't good. It really feels like a gut punch. Even the ending is just
Long story short, Ollie is revealed to be the prototype, but there's this sort of weird dynamic where he wants to like recapture her or something about being from like the same cloth or whatever. It's a bit intriguing, but I wish they did some kind of other rug pull out from underneath us. Felt like too obvious of a reveal. I was sure that it was going to be a red herring. So sure, in fact, I ended up actually making a video right before the chapter dropped, putting my predictions, and this was one of them, but unfortunately, it wasn't, and I will admit my defeat here. Even though I think it's dumb and they could have done something cooler, it still works thematically. But then we get to the last tape, and Leaf Pierre's voice fills our ears. Huggy Wuggy comes banging on the door in this poppy garden. Cut to black. We all knew it was coming, we just didn't know when. I don't love it. It's just not for me, I guess. Maybe. This isn't like Thanos appearing at the end of Ragnarok sort of levels of hype I'm feeling here. This is more like Woody Harrelson in a bad wig saying, oh, there's gonna be carnage at the end of a fucking Venom movie. It's just, it doesn't have that same sort of impact. I don't really care because its presentation and delivery is just so boring. Like, what, is Huggy gonna all of a sudden become our ally? Like, I guarantee you that's not what's happening here. And we're gonna get some shitty chase scene for the 3rd time where Huggy is chasing us. You've already had 2 really good ones. You can't do that 3 times. I'm so sorry, the bit is dry, mob games. Now, I'm sure you're probably wondering, am I gonna play the last chapter of Poppy Playtime? Of course I am. I'm already here. I'm just gonna see it through until the end. Do I think any of the theories that I have thought of in my head are gonna actually hold up? Absolutely, probably fucking not. It just feels so aimless anymore. I don't know. Am I still excited? I don't know. But Doughy gave me enough goodwill to at least hope that they can somehow turn this around. I'm kind of doubting it, but who knows? Maybe this chapter will get delayed and we'll have to wait a half a year to see something incredible. I would honestly be perfectly okay with that. Fingers crossed that they can just somehow dig themselves out of the hole that they have put themselves in.
Poppy Playtime is a special title to me. Not only was it a game that really grabbed my attention, it was what got me into making these videos in the first place. True story. This video you are watching was going to be what I made for my first project in this style, albeit when Chapter 3 was not released yet. But then it evolved into the mascot horror game video I made, so I owe it a bit of thanks for pushing me to try something new that I now really enjoy. Plus, right when I was ready to give up on the genre, Chapter 3 pulled me right back in, and I was really starting to find unique games available in the sphere. Well, yeah, they have some not-so-great history entwined into them, And while I don't love every aspect of this franchise, it is still fun to explore the world of it all. Playco, the Hour of Joy, all the VHS style promo stuff, everything makes this all feel so great to see unfold.
It isn't perfect by any means, and I think it has really served to define what mascot horror should and should not be. And honestly, it's incredible to see that one game studio can go from having super high highs to really low lows. So here's to you, Mob Games. May Chapter 5 lead to new things, exciting conclusions, and shakeups to the landscape around you once more like you've done before. Also, fuck Project Playtime. It's awful. I hate it. That's all I have to say on it. There's literally nothing else I can say about that game. It's terrible.
Hey, thank you guys so much for checking out this video. It's been about a year in the making, but I am just so fucking proud of how this has finally turned out. I'm glad that I was able to do something so large scale to end off the year. This was great, and I really hope it was worth the wait. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite chapter of Poppy Playtime is, if you're hyped for Chapter 5, or if you got any suggestions for any other games that we could do in this very large scale sort of format. I would love to do another one of these in the future, maybe like Bendy and the Ink Machine, or FNAF, or whatever you guys want to see. Special thanks to our channel members who help make these videos possible, especially our space captains such as Element and CM Platinum. You guys absolutely all rock. If you'd like to help with our production costs and help us increase the overall quality of what we're able to produce on the channel here, you can become a channel member today for as low as $1.99. Every little bit helps, and I appreciate anyone who is able to do it, even though the economy is what it is. I'm really excited for next year. We've got a lot of fun projects coming out with some really interesting angles to capture, so if you guys want to know when those are going to be going up, you can hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, because they're just going to be a fuck ton of fun to produce next year. That's going to be it for me this year video-wise. I still got a few more streams I'm going to do this year, so I hope you guys have a good day, evening, or night, wherever you may be. Have a happy holiday, and I will talk to you all later. Thanks again. Bye-bye!